Hey, what's up guys, welcome back to the channel. In this simple video we are going to be working with the coronavirus graph API. So what this site does, they give you direct links to images or graphs of the COVID cases. So this is what it does. So as you can see here, they tell you to pass in the two country codes and the examples here below. You forgive me for the noise in the background. So once you pass in your two-letter country code here, they will give you a graph for that country. I'm in Uganda, and if I pass in UG, they will give me the graph for Uganda. So depending on the country that you're in, you just have to pass in the two-letter country code. And that may be very challenging to users. Not every user knows the two-letter country code of a specific country, and that's why we bring in another API called the Race Countries API. What this site does, it gives you a list of all countries and their data. So here we are going to use this endpoint of all. Let me copy this and visit it in the browser, paste and go. And what this does, it will give us back some JSON data of all the countries in the whole world. And what we want only is this two-letter country code. So we are going to be using this text API, this simple API here that you're seeing, to pass in these perimeters. And we are going to use the Race Countries API. It has taken long to format this text, but this is what it gives you back. They give you the common name of that country, and what we are looking for is this CCA2. These are the two country codes. So here they are telling you Greece has this country code of GR, and I never knew that that's the short country code for that country. So we are just going to use our simple select menu where somebody can select a country and we get this CAA2 country code and we pass into this perimeter and we get that graph of the COVID cases. So let's go into our simple code editor here. So I'm just going to leave this open, close this, and this is what we are going to be working with. I'm going to place it side by side with the text editor here, and don't mind about the stylings. Later on I'll be doing that. We are just going to focus on JavaScript right now. So you're just going to have some simple select tag. You can remove the perimeter, the name perimeter, because we're not saving anything. You're just getting from the API. If you are saving, let's say using a programming language like PHP, you put the name there. So here I'm just going to call it short code. Oh, not short dash code. This is what we're having on the page. It will be empty at the start. Let me save. I never saved. And here we will be having this. Then let us put a simple div with the ID of results. Very simple. So this is our HTML. Very simple. We don't need to do anything. Now what I forgot to tell you, we are having two files, index.html and app.js. So in app.js is where we are going to be writing our simple JavaScript. But this is all the HTML that we need right now. Our empty select tag and the div with the ID of results. Now let's open the app.js file. So what you're going to do, first grab on this element, these two elements. So here I'm just going to write const and I say select lm, so for element, and we say, so this is user defined. You can call it anything you want. This is how I've named it. So it's not compulsory that you have to write that. So we say document.query selector select all, and you pass in the ID that you gave that element, which is short code. So hash Forgive me for the noise in the background. Short code dash code. So that's the ID. Now let us also select the div with the ID of results. So const, wow, can't type today, const res div. So this is also user defined. I've just called it that, and you assign it to document dot query selector, query select to, and then you pass in the ID of that element, which is results. So hash results, excuse me. So results, very simple. So we have access to those two elements, and what I forgot is to link this file to the document, to the HTML index.html file. So here, right before the body crossing tag, you put the script tag with the source attribute, and you point to the file, so which is app.js. So they are in the same directory, so there is no relative path there, so they are here in the same directory. So we just specify the name of the file, which is app.js. Right now it knows that, yeah, I'm connected to this document or file. The first thing we are going to do is make a request to this API of the REST countries API, and we get those two, the two letter country codes, and that's going to be very simple. So let us first create a function here, and I'm going to say get country code. Is it long? Let's call it get code. And we are going to use the fetch API to request. So we say fetch from this URL, then we say .then, and it's going to respond back with JSON data. So we say res, or you can call it response. I'm going to use the arrow function here, and we say return res.json. So they are returning back JSON data the way you're seeing here in the browser. Then .then, because this is promise based, and then it will return back some data to us. So arrow function, and I'm going to console.log this data out, console.log data, and in case we run into an error, we say we can catch that error. So we say .catch, we use the arrow function here, and we say console.log. I'm going to use the template strings and say there was an error, then $ curly brackets, then you're passing the error that will be coming back from that API. So save. Let's go back here and Ctrl+Shift+I on your keyboard to bring up the console. Oh, you forgive me for the slow internet. Ctrl+Shift+I. Why is it refusing? So let us just right click and select inspect. Go to the console tab. Oh, and I forgot. They won't get us back the data unless we call this function. So I'm just going to go outside here. Sorry for that, guys. And I say get code. We need to call the function. So right now, if I save, we should see some data in the console. So right now we have our data from the API, and they kind of divide it into 100. So here they will give you the country, so the name, stuff, all like that. So this is what we are getting back from that API. Very simple. You can see the name, stuff like that. Now what we are going to do here, since we see that they have given us back the data, so I'm going to go outside here. We can write everything here, but it will look messy. So I like creating a different function that will be generating the HTML for us. So what I'm going to do here is create another function here. Function. Function, and I'm going to call it generate HTML. And this is going to pass in, it's the one that we are going to pass in here. So I'm just going to pass a parameter called our data. And you guessed it right. Instead of putting console.log, we just pass in generate HTML and pass in the data that we are getting from the API. So what you're seeing here, it will be representing what we have passed in here. So here, I'm going to put in a simple, like I'm going to declare a variable here, output, and I'm going to set it to be empty at the start, and I'll show you that. Then we have to look through this data that we are getting from the API. So remember, we passed in our parameter here that is representing the data from the API. So our data dot for each, I have to scroll up. For each, let's say for each country, because we are dealing with the countries. And we are going now to use that variable that we declared up there of output, and we append to it. I'm going to use the template strings, and we append the option tag. So option tag. And what, oh sorry, I missed an in here. So this is what we are having. We are getting data from the API, right? And we are going to use this function to generate the HTML for that data. And what I did, I just created a different function here called generate HTML, and I passed in this parameter that is referencing to the data that we are getting from the API, right? And here we are looping through all these data, so these objects, and what we want to get is this CCA2. There is the country. Let me see. Yeah, we have the CCA2. Where's the name? Where's the name? In the console, it's kind of confusing. So once you go back in the browser here, as you can see, we have access to the name, and inside the name there is an object with another key property of common. So for us to get the country name, we need to write $, use the word that we came up with, which is country here. So country dot name. So this is what we are first accessing. You have accessed the key property of name. Then inside it, we want common. So dot common. That's how we can get, common. It's common. So that's how we get the name of the country, which is Greece. We go outside here, and then we get the element that we selected, which is this, the select element. We want to select this. We want to inject all those countries in this select menu. What we are going to do, let me first close out this. Remember, we already selected it here, select lm. So here we shall say select lm dot inner HTML, and we set it to output. Save that, and we should see a list of countries injected in this select menu. Very simple. But this is the visual name or the common name that somebody can read, but the actual thing that we want are the 2-letter country codes. For example, CN, US, IT, UG, those are the country codes that we want. And here, if you have to check, they are inside CCA2. So here, this is the object name. That means for it, it's alone. We have the tilde, it's alone. So here, inside the opening tag for the option, we shall say value, and then pass in the $ curly brackets, and we shall say country dot cca2. So right now, this is what we are targeting. So it's the value that we want to select when the user selects a specific country. Save that. If I right click and inspect the element, we should see that in the value we have these country codes. You can see for Greece is GR, we have BN, Vietnam is VN. So those are the values that we want to be getting from these countries. So what the user sees are the full country names, but for us in the value like attribute, we are passing these two country codes, and it's what we want. Very, very simple. So our work with the race countries API is done. What we are remaining with is to work with this. So what we want to do is when the user selects a specific country, we want to fetch a graph, a COVID graph for that country, and display it below here. And this is what we are going to do. Inside this results div, I'm going to pass in an image tag, but it's going to be empty without the alt attribute or the source attribute. So it's going to be empty. So I want to inject the source attribute dynamically using JavaScript. So it's going to be empty on the page. And there is a reason why I'm doing this, because at the end we are going to put in some simple front-end library. So when the user clicks on that graph, it zooms out. So this is what we're having. So the thing is, we are going to listen to a change event. So on change, when this changes, we want to fire a specific event. You get it? Let's continue. So on change, we are going to be firing some function to take place. So what we are going to do is give this an event of change. So we say select element dot add event listener, and it's going to be change when it's changed. And I'm going to use the e perimeter for that event. So on change, this is an arrow function, but there is no need of putting those brackets. We can just pass in that. So this is what we're doing. I'm just going to create a variable here, and I'm going to call it country code. We want to get the value, and we can say e.target.value. Let me first console.log that value that we are getting. So country code, inspect. So I want you to see what's really happening. So what I'm doing is when the user selects this on change, we want to get the value of that country, and that's what we are getting. We are getting MP for this. If you go to Armenia, they will give you AM. Very, very simple. So we have access to those country codes. Singapore, we get SG. Very, very, very good. So now you can see where we are heading. After getting this, we can easily inject the email, like the image, in the browser. Let me do this. So right now we know we have access to that value attribute from the select menu. So when the user selects this, we get that. Select this, we get that. Select this, we get that. And that's a step forward. We can just confirm, do some validation. Say if country code, if it's not empty. So if country code then we are going to do the code inside here, else it will do nothing. So what I'm going to do here is create a variable, and I'm going to call it image URL, and I set it to this simple URL, paste it here. But instead of putting a static country code, so let me do this. Instead of putting a static country code, let us use template strings, so that will be uniform. So template strings, and here I pass in the $sign and curly brackets, then we pass in this variable of country code. Remember, it's having the other 2-letter country codes, right? We have the 2-letter country codes. Very, very simple. So what you're going to do is inject this URL in this image tag that you saw here. So I'm going to do this. Let us get hold on this image tag. So I'm just going to, can I declare here? So const, let's say image tag, and I say document dot query selector, because it's going to be alone. If I had put a class there, I would be selecting the class, but it's going to be alone on the page. So document dot query selector, and I'm going to select the image, and I'm going to select the image tag. So it's the only image tag that you have. This is not safe, you have a lot of images, but since it's the one, we can select it by itself. If possible, you can give it a class, but I'm going to select that image tag. Forgive me for the noise in the background. So here, what we are going to do is get that image tag, and we say set attribute, and I'm going to set an attribute called src, so for source, and then it takes into parameters first the attribute that you want to work on, and then you pass in the value, and the value is the image URL. So image URL, very, very simple. Let us try this, and fingers crossed, hope it works. So Algeria, and we should get a graph for Algeria. Very, very simple, as you can see, but right now it's kind of very, very, very big. Let us apply some little bit of CSS. So should we create a different file for the CSS? I guess so. Let us just come here, file, and I say style.css, and then in the head section, and I'm just going to pass in. So right now we have access to our style.css file, and remember the image is inside the results div. So results, and I'm going to give it a width of 800 pixels. The maximum width, max width is going to be 80%, and I'm going to say margin 0 auto. Let us try to see what's going to happen. Singapore. Right now I need to tell this image to be 100% of its parent element. So results. Then inside results we have image, and I'm going to say, can you be 100% of the parent element, and your height should be auto. Yeah. It's now somehow looks fine right now. If I select another country, Hong Kong, we shall get the graph for Hong Kong. Very simple. So what can we do here? But right now here there is some specific thing they tell you. As browsers and REST clients use catch, you might want to put some dummy perimeter at the end, like time and whatever. So this is good because the browser can catch these images and they give you an updated graphs. And as you can see here, they tell you they update their graphs daily. So you can pass in a fake perimeter here for you to always, for the browser to always fetch a new resource from the API. And that is very simple. So in our code here, app.js, in the perimeter, you can see ampersand and say time equals, and up here we can create our simple fake time. So we can say let now, I've just called it now, equals new date, the new date function or object, the way anyway you call it. So and we say get time, I'm going to call this get time method, and this will give us back the time. Here we shall say $ curly brackets now, and every time it will be a different. Let me inspect here so that you see what I'm meaning. So right now it's empty. When we select a country, Algeria, so right now they are injecting the source attribute and ampersand with this time. So every time you select, it will be a different number, so that the browser that doesn't catch a specific image in your browser. As you can see, they're injecting these dynamically. So guys, not every country that has a graph on this API. So as a developer, you can go on and check out the countries that don't have the graphs and list them on your page, letting the user know that there are some countries that have missing graphs. Like this one, Greenland, there are no graphs for that, and they just present to you a broken URL image. Estonia must be having. So here you get what I'm meaning. So but this is also not, it's tiny for the user to read, and that's why I'm going to bring in this simple Materialize CSS framework, and it has a simple light box way of amplifying the images to the user, and it's under media, I guess, CSS media, and this is it. Where is the JavaScript in media? They have a simple material box whereby you can click on the image and zoom it out. So it's what I want to add on this page. You forgive me, I just concentrated more on the JavaScript part. You get it? So here I'm just going to be summarizing. So here they are telling you, if you want this to happen, you just need to add a class on your image tag, which is material boxed, and that's what we are going to do. Come here inside our simple image tag here, we put a class of material boxed, and here they let you know you select that element and you select this class of material boxed. So here I'll just say in our JavaScript const boxed class, that's what I'm going to call it, boxed class. So these are user defined document.query selector, query selector, then you pass in that class of material boxed, Very simple. And here they tell you you can now initiate it using m.materialBox and the element that you want to pass in. So here we shall just say m dot why is it bringing map? Whoa. M dot material box. Is it material box? Yeah, material box dot init, and initialize it. Then you pass in the element, and then it also takes in an object full of options, but right now we don't need it. So only this should give us the other. Oh, and I also forgot, for this to work we need to link these files on our page for them to know the m parameter that we passed in, the materialize parameter. So here in our head section you can pass in that, then also get the JavaScript script tag, and it should be on top of the app because we are depending on that. It should be good to go. Oh, right now they somehow hide the select menu by default, or the select element, and I'm just going to give it a class of browser default. I want the default styling for the browser. I don't need yours from the, and this is what they are giving us. Select Yemen. This, when we click, it zooms out that image. Very simple. And this is what I want to do, is wrap all these elements. I'll just cut them and put them inside this div with the class of container. So this is how it looks like. Now Singapore, select that, click it, and you'll be having that. You can just say margin top. I don't want the image to be right next to the select menu, and we put like 30. My country, Uganda. Where is Uganda? Do you know Uganda is lost? Let us select Egypt if Uganda is lost, and we are having that. Very simple. Now another thing that I noticed is by default they display a country, and we don't want this. We want the user to know what the select menu does. So instead of putting a country there, inside here our variable that we created of output, we can first put in another option tag here, option tag, and we can say select select any country. Select any country, and we want it to be the selected. When the page loads, we want it to always be the selected word or what the user sees, and we want it to be disabled. We don't want the user to be able to select it. And here what we are doing is, first we declare this, and here we are just appending to what we already have. So it already has this option tag, but again we are appending on our countries. So this is what the user will be seeing the moment they land on the page. Select any country instead of displaying a country. And if you are to select this, you'll see it is always disabled. You can't select it. You have to select a country below. So Mexico, this is the graph. So when the user clicks it, it zooms out and they see the data clearly. So I hope you guys got something from this tutorial. If so, please subscribe to the channel, like the video, and I will always be seeing you in the next tutorials. This is the simple code that we wrote. We worked with two APIs, the REST countries API that gave us the simple, like the two country letter codes and the country name. And what we are doing is when the user selects, we just get those two values or the two country letters, and we display a simple dynamic like relative path to that PNG graph of that country. So guys, if this tutorial was useful, once again please subscribe to the channel, and I will be seeing you in the next tutorials. Peace.